All right, welcome to section 2. We are looking at the politics and economics of the Roaring Twenties because we are setting ourselves up for the 1930s. Everything that happens in the decade of the 1920s sets us up for the downfall of the 1930s. Last we talked about this return to normalcy, going back to isolation. We have a series of Republican presidencies throughout the 1920s that are going to focus on the pro business policies, kind of similar to the Gilded Age, returning to that laissez faire economics, government, hands off. And we saw the president of Warren G. Harding from 1920 to 1923. Remember, Harding is going to die in office, which brings us to our next guy, Calvin Coolidge. Coolidge is going to take over the presidency after Harding dies, and what the people learn about Coolidge is that he's the exact opposite of Harding, where Harding was super outgoing, very relatable to the common man. Harding is going to have the nickname Silent Cal. He's going to be very behind the scenes, complimentary to Harding when Harding was president, but a little hard shift here when it comes to changing of hands. Coolidge is going to be president from 1923 to 1928. So not only does he finish the presidency of Harding, but he's going to win that re-election as well. He is going to be known for his pro-business conservative approach to the economy. What he wants to do is make the government lean and efficient, meaning we're not spending a lot, but we are getting done what needs to get done. He is going to place his trust in big business with the slogan, the business of America is business, meaning that what greases the wheels of our economy is our own manufacturing and our own business, and we need to support that business. He is going to fill his administration with people that agree with those virtues of an older America. Remember, we're kind of going backwards here, real Gilded Age vibes during the 1920s. After the Teapot Dome scandal, that illustration to the people that government officials were taking advantage of their power at their expense, Coolidge now has to restore the public's faith in the government. And he does so with that honest personality that he has. He tells the people the goals that I have during my presidency are going to be reduce the national debt, trim down the federal budget, and lower taxes to give businesses an incentive to open and build. So he's saying, I'm going to take care of our economy, and the way I'm going to do that is by supporting business. He shows his support for business by raising the tariff. Remember, protective tariff protects American manufacturing by making those foreign goods more expensive. And Coolidge says, I told you that the business of America is business, so here I am supporting business. With these goals, he easily wins the re-election in 1924 because he's highly popular. People are like, he's transparent. I like him. He's doing well for the economy. He's trying to set us up for success. Under Coolidge, what we do see happen is that the economy is on the rise. Industrial profits are going to be generated, and there's going to be a growth in the stock market. So it seems that everything is going really well. Plus, he has a pretty awesome campaign slogan, keep cool with Coolidge for president. Who doesn't want to do that? But there are going to be problems that begin to bubble up during Coolidge's presidency. One of those problems are going to be that farmers are going to start to struggle. As the price of goods are falling, farmers aren't going to be making as much money. You've got to remember, when prices go down, the cost to make these goods doesn't go anywhere. It still remains. So farmers are going to struggle with this shift from a wartime economy to a peacetime economy, what the price of their goods is going to look like, how much they should be producing. And this problem we're going to see come back. Labor unions are going to start demanding better conditions and higher wages. This should be ringing bells of the Gilded Age. Because the government is getting rid of those progressive policies, taking a step back, taking a more hands off approach, of course, wages are going to go down and conditions in the factories are going to get worse. So you see labor unions starting to demand this broken record of better conditions, better wages, better hours. We also are going to see African Americans facing severe discrimination, and this discrimination is going to demand legislative reform. We're going to see a rise in membership of the KKK. We're going to see violence in across the United States against African Americans, and this is not going to be taken lightly anymore. This discrimination can't just be shoved under the rug. So this is going to start to begin to demand attention from the government, who's trying to be very hands off. There's going to be that influx of immigrants during World War one group being Mexican Americans, who during the 1920s are going to face low wages and discrimination, and push for aid as well. Coolidge looks at all of these problems and says, I'm pro laissez faire, hands off form of government. I don't want to use my power as president to support social change. He doesn't support progressive reforms. So when he looks at these problems, he says society has to fix it themselves. I will not fix these problems. But some of these problems aren't just social problems, they're economic problems as well, which is going to push for some serious issues to come up in the 1930s. We do have some economic prosperity of the 1920s, though, and one of the biggest things that we see rising to prosperity is the automobile. We have Henry Ford that is going to absolutely revolutionize what it means to work in a factory. He changes production, he changes wages, he changes conditions in daily life. He is going to introduce the Model T, the average American car, in 1908. He says you can have it in any color as long as it's black. Because of the way he was producing this car, he made it using the assembly line to significantly drop the price. You can't change the color. You can't custom order a specific color when we're mass producing cars to drop the price. So when he says that quote, he's really illustrating, as long as we keep pumping out these cars quickly and efficiently, the price will stay down. So if you want a different color, then we can raise the prices, but this is what you get. When I say he changes wages and conditions in daily life, he changes what the workday and the work week looks like. Ford gives us the 8-hour workday, and he gives us the 5-day work week. In the Ford factories, he gives all of his employees Saturdays and Sundays off, and he pays them reasonable wages so that even they can afford the product that they're making, because he realizes that if we're going to make this product for the average American, that's my workers, that's the working class. So he pays them a workable wage, he gives them reasonable hours. And this is where we start to see the population branch out. Suburbs start to form, because if the average American has a car, that means they don't have to live around the corner from work anymore. They can move to the suburbs. They have money to do so. So the car is going to have this kind of ripple effect that not only changes what consumers are getting as far as a car, but it also bleeds into other functions of life. When the automobile takes off, so do other industries, and this is just common sense. Whatever you need to make a car, that industry is going to skyrocket. Whatever you need to make the roads that people are going to drive on, that also skyrockets. Plus the insurance industry is going to take off, because now people need to buy insurance for their cars and those fancy homes in the suburbs. They're not living in an apartment building anymore. They're living in their own homes. The government is going to introduce the highway system in 1926, which takes off the road construction industry. We've got to build those highways. They weren't there before. We have to not only come up with a system of roads, but we also have to make them come to life. Of course, this makes sense, but public transportation is going to be on the decline. Trains and trolleys not going to be used as much anymore. I'm not saying they disappear because that's not true. We're still going to have a working class American that doesn't make enough money to live in the suburbs and own a car, that has to use public transportation to get to work. But there's going to be more people that own their own car, that don't have to live in the city, that don't have to depend on public transportation. As a result of the 5-day work week that is kind of created by Ford and used elsewhere, families are going to start to travel, which means the vacation industry also starts to take off in the 1920s. So you can see how the car kind of does this ripple into other industries, causing economic prosperity in more than just one place. Another reason for economic prosperity in the 1920s is because of the consumer revolution. And this is a huge definition that we need to put in our brains. The consumer revolution is the idea that many new and affordable goods were made available to the average person. Okay, consumers buying more and more goods every day. The need, think about like keeping up with the Joneses, the need to buy new goods, to have the newest, coolest good is going to fuel this population of consumers to go out and purchase the newest item. Electric power is going to fuel this consumer revolution because now we're coming up with products that rely on electricity, and that just opens up a whole new bag of worms there. The idea behind a lot of these new products is to make housekeeping easier. Okay, so we're gonna see vacuums, irons, washing machines, dryers, things like that are gonna start to pop up to give people more free time, lessen the burden of keeping up a house, because now we have all of these suburbs. We have all of these new homes. We need to make products that will go in all of these new homes because that's where the mass part of the population is. These products are tailored to the average American because that's where the biggest chunk of the population is. Plus, we're going to see new ways of buying, and these are going to become huge. Okay, we need to get these in our brains. These are things that we use all the time. The first way of buying is buying on credit. If you don't have the money, cash on hand, that's okay. You can start a line of credit. You can take that item home today. There's also the idea of installment buying. This is a lot like layaway. You put a small down payment down and then you pay a monthly bill afterwards. Both of these ways create an opening for people who don't have the money to take home that new product without actually paying in full for it. By borrowing this money to make the purchase, consumers are buying products that previously they would have saved years to buy. So we're encouraging a new method of buying here. Now I know it sounds dumb, but this was all brand new in the 1920s. Now, to convince people that they should create debt for themselves and go buy products that they can't afford, magazines and newspapers are going to come out, and an advertising agency, an advertising market is going to start to really take off during this time. Advertisers' goals are going to be to target specific audiences and use psychological and scientific research to convince people to buy products that they don't have the money for. All of these new ways of causing economic prosperity in the 1920s are going to lead us into the 1930s. Next time we come together, we're going to talk about the Roaring Twenties, the changing of society and culture. Don't forget about your homework for tonight, and any questions, let me know.